Welcome to Keith Bracey's In the Clubhouse, our sideways look at rugby union. And tonight, Chris, we've got a bit of news hot off the presses.
Oh.
Bit of breaking news here on Keith Bracey's In the Clubhouse on Sports Radio Birmingham, the best sports radio you'll ever need.
Ooh.
And the fact is that Wasps Rugby Club, who are based in High Wycombe, at Wycombe Wanderers Old Ground, have put a bid in for the Ricoh Arena. Can you believe that?
Let me just go back a bit. I didn't know that they played at Wycombe Wanderers Old Ground.
Yeah, High Wycombe, in High Wycombe.
Didn't know that. Oh, well,
the thing is, though, Chris, it's a great move for me as a real rugby fan, because the West Midlands just hasn't got a Premiership rugby club, has it?
No.
You know, and the Ricoh is the West Midlands, and Coventry is a rugby town. Coventry Rugby Club were 30 years ago, were one of the top rugby clubs in the country, along with Moseley, Leicester, Northampton, all those, Gloucester, all the regulars, Bath, or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, that's the breaking bit of news, Chris. Wasps Rugby Club have put in a bid for the Ricoh Arena.
What are the chances?
I don't know. It depends whether...
and why are they moving?
Because Wycombe Wanderers ground is too small for them, basically.
Right, okay.
And yes, they are known as London Wasps, but they could change the name to Coventry Wasps.
Yeah.
You know, and Coventry is a hotbed of the game of rugby, and and Coventry City has said they'd be quite happy for it to share with Wasps if Wasps did buy the ground, and so you'd have Coventry City and the Coventry Wasps Rugby Club playing there. So wouldn't that be great for the West Midlands rugby and football?
Fantastic, really? That would, yeah.
And it would stop Coventry's problems with finance, wouldn't it? And the fact that they're banned from playing at the Ricoh for a good 18 months while they stupidly played at Northampton Town, where all their fans boycotted their home games. Ridiculous, wasn't it, Chris?
It is, yeah. It sounds like a win-win, really, for all parties concerned.
Because, as a rugby fan in the West Midlands, we have a dearth. A dearth.
I've got a dearth. It's round the back. Yeah.
I've got a Volkswagen. Nissan Micra. Sorry, 16 years old.
Don't be dirty.
Yeah, there's a dearth of top class rugby in the West Midlands. Yes, Worcester, but they're perennial ups and downers. Those Worcester boys will never make a proper rugby club, in my opinion, as a true rugby stalwart. Yes, if Moseley got 10 million quid of Cecil Duckworth's money, they could have made a better fist of Premiership rugby than Worcester ever have. Although saying that, they won again on Saturday. Those Worcester boys 47-17 again.
They were probably lucky.
But Wasps are a genuine rugby club. They won the European Cup. Imagine having that at the club of Lawrence Delalio.
Fantastic.
In the West Midlands. Wouldn't that be blooming great, Chris?
Brilliant.
Anyway, enough of the breaking news. And I'm not breaking wind, I'm breaking news.
Breaking news.
So tonight's In the Clubhouse, we want to have a look at a seismic shift in world rugby, which happened over the weekend. Because those Saffers, those South African Springboks, beat the All Blacks 27-25 in the Rugby Championship, which is not to be confused with the English Championship.
Oh, yeah, I am confused now.
You are confused. Too many championships.
Yeah. So which one's which?
Well, the Rugby Championship is the Southern Hemisphere's equivalent to the Six Nations, contested by South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, and the newcomers 3 years ago, Argentina, who are now the four Southern Hemisphere superpowers of rugby. And that was another upset over the weekend. Argentina won their first game in the championship. Do you know who they beat? I took great glee in this. They beat the Aussies.
Oh,
the Pumas beat the Wallabies. They hit those Wallabies and chewed them up and spat them out.
That sounds like a pretty...
a seismic shift.
A seismic shift, yeah.
Although the big seismic shift, in my opinion, was the fact that South Africa beat the All Blacks. The All Blacks had gone 34 games undefeated. Actually, they'd lost one game to England in December 2012 at Twickenham, when the All Blacks came out with their usual excuse, which you have used before, notably in 1995 when they lost the Rugby World Cup in South Africa, when Francois Pienaar was presented with Old Bill, which isn't the trophy, not the copper, PC George Dixon. The Old Bill by Nelson Mandela in his rugby Springbok shirt, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Well, the blooming New Zealanders said they'd had a dodgy prawn the night before. And they said exactly the same thing 12, 15 years later when England defeated them. They must have had a dodgy bloody leg of turkey, I think, before Christmas. But they always come up with the excuses, New Zealand. They're bad losers, mate. They're bad losers.
Terrible
because
losers.
They're so good. Their win percentage, can you believe this? And Man United, Liverpool in their pomp, all these great sides. 76% win percentage in all their international games since about 1905. Can you believe that? 76 win percentage. Isn't that brilliant? Wouldn't the Blues give their eye teeth to have a 76 win percentage, mate? Villa probably in the 40s, I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I've never really looked at it. It's a statistician's nightmare, I would imagine, win percentages, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Win and lose ratios and all that sort of stuff.
I'm lost already.
I'm not a stato.
I
might be called Boffin Bracey, but I'm not a stato.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the rugby. Anyway, the start of this seismic shift in world rugby with the South Africans beating the New Zealand All Blacks 27-25 was a young man called Handry Pollard. Obviously of English extraction with a name like Pollard. Can I say that, Chris?
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
Can I say Pollard?
Of course you can.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Handry Pollard, he scored, he's an ex, actually, this time last year, he was captain of the South African under-20 side, which lost to England in the under-20s World Cup final, would you believe? And yet the South Africans have believed in him and fast-tracked him straight into the national 15. He's replaced as well Morné Steyn, who was one of the greatest ever Springbok fly-halves, who never missed a kick, hardly. His kicking percentage was up there in the 80%, like Johnny Wilkinson's is. And he's Handry Pollard is a young man. He's only 21. He was captain, as I say, of the under-20s side, which lost in the final to England last October in the Rugby World Cup under-20s championship. And they've fast-tracked him straight into the first team, and he's come up with the goods because he, as I say, he scored. What was it? How many points did he score? I can't remember.
I'm hoping you're going to tell me.
Well, no. The point I wanted to make is the equivalent player who played against him in that England World Cup, England under-20s World Cup side, John Olver, played for Moseley at the weekend. Would you believe?
Oh.
So that's from the sublime to the ridiculous. So a young man who was in opposition to John Olver from Northampton Saints playing for the Moseley in the Championship. Not the Rugby Championship, the English Championship.
Right,
Not confusing you, am I?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
I am, yes. Sorry. Yeah. I apologise. No, but, John Olver was playing in the Championship, second tier of English rugby. Handry Pollard was playing in the top, probably, game we've had for 5 years in world rugby. Shows the difference the South Africans have in putting faith in their youngsters, really, doesn't it, Chris?
Yeah. Just quickly going back to Moseley, weren't they building a new stand, or is it?
They have, yeah. It's not finished. I think it's going to be finished around Christmas time.
Okay.
They are building a new stand. And did somebody remind us of that on the shout box, Chris, or was it?
Yeah, that was me.
That was you. Oh, you remember what I'm talking about?
Of course, I take it all in, Keith.
You don't.
I do. Honestly, you might think of that.
Mate. You never. Yeah, no. I know. Yeah. I'm only being cruel. I'm only pulling your leg.
I'm only
pulling your leg. Yeah, so that was these two seismic shifts in the Rugby Championship. And as I say, Pollard has replaced one of the greatest ever Springbok 10s, Morné Steyn, and he scored 2 tries and kicked 1 penalty and three, which is 3 points. No, this might confuse you again, Chris. I know you bear a very little brain. Penalties worth 3 points. A conversion worth 2 points.
Yep.
And he kicked 1 penalty and 3 conversions, which makes.
I say it again.
9 points.
9 points.
9 points.
I was going to say 9 points. I was going to say 9 points. Yeah.
Let's pay attention, Chris.
I was going to make a guess. And I was going to say 9 points.
He scored 9 points and 2 tries, so a 19-point total in the game. And the game was only won 27-25. And another youngster, Francois Hugard. Can I say that, Chris?
Yep.
Hugard. Who was playing scrum half. He scored the first try of the game. A fantastic try from a long way out. It wasn't Lesotho. It was not that far out.
Right.
But, it was, it was
not
sort
too
of.
Far out,
It was just the other end of the pitch, sort of thing. That
gotcha.
joke fell on stony ground, didn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Stony ground. Yeah. The tumbleweeds are going in. Yeah, tumbleweeds. Yeah. Anyway, I won't crack any more jokes tonight, Chris. I'll just carry on with the rugby, which I'm not digressing as much as I usually do.
No, you're not. Chris, doing well.
Yeah. So the New Zealanders led the game with 5 minutes to go, 25-24, and of course it looked like the same old. It looked like the here we go again. New Zealand's great experience will win the day. However, they hadn't counted on another youngster. Can you imagine that? Another youngster called Patrick Lambie, again of English extraction. These Afrikaners, they're mixed with some Boers and some English. Because you remember the Boer War.
I can mention there's a few Boers in rugby.
A lot of Boers in the dicky bows and the stripy ties and the stripy blazers. They're called a lickadoos, Chris. A lickadoo. Can I say that?
Lickadoos.
A lickadoos.
Why do they call
They
it?
don't lick their doos, but
Why are they called?
That's just a generic name for a rugby, like sort of bon viveur, I suppose.
Oh, right, okay, bon viveur.
Can I say bon viveur?
Yeah, I don't know what it
Okay.
means.
A rugby like sort of clubman, you know, who'd been there forever, played it, done it, worn the t-shirt, worn the tie,
right.
you know, and all that, and the blazer,
Yeah.
with the coloured pink socks as well, you know. The lickadoos, they're every rugby club's got them, you know. They run the club since the year dot, and they know better than you than how it's played.
Oh,
but
I know the type. Yeah.
These are not far from a lickadoos. These two young men, Andrew Pollard and Patrick Lambie, because Lambie won the game in the last minute of the game with a 55-metre penalty goal. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine that? 55 metres.
55 metres. I'm trying to think.
That's half the length of the pitch.
Yeah.
From his own half, just inside his own half. The record for a rugby union penalty is about 76 metres. So can you imagine 55 metres is a hell of a long way, and that's held by Paul Thorburn, the ex-Wales fullback and captain. He kicked a penalty against England, I think it was 76 metres. He kicked it from well inside his own half, inside the own 10-metre line. So yes, Patrick Lambie kicked the last-minute penalty to win the game, 27-25 for South Africa, and of course, as we heard, the New Zealanders were belly aching again. They had a dodgy curry the night before. Typical of all New Zealand rugby, they're both losers. So, yeah, but there's a challenge of the guard in both sides, New Zealand and South Africa. We've seen how South Africa backed youth and picked Andre Pollard instead of Morné Steyn at fly half. And the All Blacks have been doing the same. They dropped Ma Nonu. Can I say that? Nonu. Wasn't it sad about Kevin, what was his name?
That's
Morecambe Minty chap.
Robbie
Williams.
Yeah.
So sad.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Such a funny man.
Yep.
R.I.P. Robin.
But a few people have got their demons, haven't they?
Indeed. Depression's a terrible thing.
It is,
It can be, and it can affect any of us here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Churchill had his black dog.
That's right. That's what
you know that.
Yeah, that's why
his black dog. It wasn't a Labrador.
No.
He called it. That was what he called his depression.
There is a website called Black Dog for people with depression.
Well, don't they call it bipolar disorder? Isn't that what
Churchill had?
And hasn't Catherine Zeta-Jones admitted to being bipolar or something? And Stephen Fry, the national
Stephen
treasure.
Fry,
He's tried to commit suicide a couple of times. This is getting a bit dark, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Let's go back to draws in. We don't want to talk about such things. Talk about rugby. Talk about rugby.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to talk about, rugby. As I say, Ma Nonu got dropped for this game, and he's been in the All Black side for the last 10 years. The fantastic inside centre with the dreadlocks, and he was picked. His replacement was a young man called Fekitoa. Can I say that?
You can say that, yeah.
Fekitoa.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
It's not Krakatoa, it's Fekitoa.
Yeah.
He played centre instead of Ma Nonu, and he scored a try. Now this name will get you. This is another young man that the All Blacks have introduced. Can you imagine this guy's name is Beauden Barrett?
Great.
He played number 10 for New Zealand on Saturday. Beauden Barrett, who sounds like a Mississippi riverboat gambler to me. Don't you think, Beau Barrett? Doesn't it sound great? Didn't you think of Isis High down on the Mississippi with his straw boater on and his dicky bow, blowing in the wind?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Beauden Barrett? Isn't that a lovely name?
Girls doing the can in the background.
Yeah, lyrical.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Game of poker with his mates, gunslingers and OK Corral and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, Beauden Barrett, I think it's a fantastic name. There's another one as well, and it's another good name, Israel Dag. Oh. He played fullback, another young man. Israel Dag playing fullback for the New Zealanders on Saturday. And as I say, they're believing in youth, and for me, England could do worse than pick a few youngsters. We've had Johnny May picked, but he's about 25, 26. Although last season they picked a bit of a wild card for me, Exeter Chiefs Jack Noel on the wing, who was only 21. So really, it was a bit of a failed experiment for me because he showed his inexperience in the very first game he played, in the very first play he was involved in, and he dropped the ball and France went and scored. But I think youth is the way forward, Chris, in rugby, football, England football, Wilshire, Oxlade Chamberlain. Hat-trick man for Arsenal. What's his name?
Some fantastic hand actions coming here, Keith.
Don't go there, Chris. Don't go there, man. I can't think of his name. The black guy up front from Man U.
Who's presently up on
for Arsenal?
Oh, for Arsenal.
Scored a hat-trick on Saturday. on the week.
Oh, you mean Daniel?
Danny Welbeck. Welbeck.
Yeah,
that's his name, not Walpole. Welbeck.
Thanks for helping us out, Nick.
Well, you're the football expert, Nick. So
He's just watching us suffer.
I'm just trying to broaden our horizons a bit. You know, we're all Catholic in our sporting taste: football, rugby, cricket. In fact, I want to say about Kevin Peterson. He's turncoat, isn't he? Have you seen what he said?
No.
A bullying atmosphere in England cricket dressing room, led by Andy Flower, Prize of Pratt, and Graham Swan is an idiot and a bully, and they all got ganged up on dear old Kevin KP, who's as nutty as a fruitcake, if you ask me. But of course, he's got a book to sell, hasn't he? So he won't be saying
there you go.
In fact, he's being interviewed later on tonight or tomorrow, I think, on TalkSport. So by Darren Gough, who I'm sure will put him in his place, and he'll probably punch him up the bracket as well, I think, because Goughy don't stand any nonsense. I don't think.
I've not heard that expression for a long time.
Punch him up the bracket.
It's a
Brummie phrase.
It's something off Carry On film, isn't it?
Punch him up the bracket.
I'm going to punch him up the bracket.
Now, that reminds me of another phrase which came to mind for me today when somebody was coughing rather loudly in the office, and my dear old mum, God bless her soul, Dorothy Bracer, used to say, "Choke up, chicken, your mother's a duck."
No.
Have you heard that one?
No.
Or, she was like a bag of muck tied up ugly. That's a real about a blousy woman who sat on the doorstep chatting and gossiping. She was like a bag of muck tied up ugly. Don't you like that? I think they ought to introduce some of these phrases in the Peaky Blinders, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it was on this week. Did you watch it? It was brilliant. Did you watch it?
I watched, to be honest,
I
watched the first half, and I was having difficulty understanding what they were saying.
Because you didn't understand the accent. Is it true, Brummie?
Yeah.
Don't you think their accents were any good?
No, it was terrible, really.
Really?
I don't think it was so much the accents. I think at the beginning it was a lot of mumbling. And
me
and the wife were both saying, What were they saying? What were they saying?
I didn't watch the first week, but I didn't think it created a malevolent atmosphere. Malevolent.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit sort of.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. It created tension. But
didn't
he get pasting at the end? Didn't he?
I switched it off.
Chris.
I know.
I'm ashamed of you.
I tried to get into it. I thought it was.
Stephen Knight will be turning in his. Really, you didn't like it?
Silly.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Anything that bigs up Brum, though, it's got to be big.
Well,
and what we're talking bigging up
Brum, it sort of glorifies violence, and I think it's a bit silly.
You think it? Well, it was a very violent program. I mean, he shot this chap in the head. He got a real pasting. Somebody put a knife in his mouth, and I thought he was going to cut his tongue out. He didn't. He extracted his gold tooth with a knife. It was a very violent film, and one of the chaps. That's the way the phrase "the nutter" comes from, you know. Yeah. Because all gangsters had a sidesman who was a nutter, who used to drop the nut on people. Yeah. So that's where the phrase "the nutter" comes from. Yeah. And Peaky Blinders, what's his name, Tommy Shelby, has got his nutter in tow. His brother, who's Billy, I think his name is Billy Shelby or something like that. He's the nutter, and he drops the nut without fear or favour. He'll drop the nut on anybody. Yeah. And he was doing it there, and he was giving it some of this, like Norman Collier.
When they went into the club.
Yes, that was it. Yeah, he was a bit violent. He was a bit violent. I don't like violence myself.
I would have quite liked to have seen something on the real Peaky Blinders. I thought, something maybe they could have made a documentary.
Carl Chinner said, they were in the 1890s.
Oh, it was a while before, 60, 70 years before,
It was great to see that Birmingham City fans, in homage to the Peaky Blinders, at the end of last season, they all dressed in their peak caps. Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. We're back to the rugby. But I do like anything that bigs up Birmingham, and Stephen Knight has great ambitions for the city. He wants to create this sound stage where the Peaky Blinders will be based, and other films can be made about the city. Okay. I'd love to make a film about the lunatics.
Oh yeah,
Matthew Bolton,
plenty of them.
Matthew Bolton, plenty of lunatics. Well, Billy blooming Shelby's a blooming lunatic. No. Anyway, I'm twitching now. But this is where bigging up Birmingham. That's where. I just wanted to digress a bit more, Chris, because that real Birminghamophobe, Jeremy Clarkson, got his right comeuppance at the weekend. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
He was stoned.
You were telling me about it. Yeah.
He was stoned and thrown out of Argentina over his number plate.
Yes, that's right.
Now, I do not like Mr. Clarkson one jot. He makes brilliant TV programmes, Top Gear, brilliant programme. Yeah. But for any cheap publicity he wants to get, he always derides our fair city of Birmingham. He's said in the past, you can't get a decent meal in Birmingham. Well, actually, Jeremy, we've got 4 Michelin-starred restaurants, mate. So come down and I'll buy you a bloody balti if you want, mate.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see Jeremy with his tail between his legs, being thrown out of Argentina for being a bit cheeky with having a number plate on his Porsche. Typical of him, really, isn't it? Driving a Porsche.
He must have known. Sure.
What was it? H982 FKL, 1982 Falklands.
Yeah.
And he denied it when they said, put it to him, that he didn't do it on purpose. Jeremy, you're a liar, mate, and I don't like you. You don't like Birmingham, and I don't like you. Enough said on the question of Jeremy Clarkson. Enough said.
Don't hold back. No,
well, we don't. We like to have our say here, and and Clarkson is persona non grata in the Sports Radio Birmingham studio, because he doesn't big up Birmingham, he bigs down Birmingham. So get lost, Clarkson. Anyway, now moving on to the Aviva Premiership. Actually, I just want to say a bit about the Championship. We mentioned Moseley a couple of times. Both their young Gloucester wingers playing on Saturday for Gloucester, who actually beat Leicester, but more of that later, actually cut their rugby teeth at Moseley at Bilsby Common. Johnny May, who's a England regular now, and is a shoe-in at wing for England. Played all last season's Six Nations games, and played in New Zealand, and also Charlie Sharples, who's also played for England. Both those guys cut their rugby teeth, as say at Bilsby Common.
I knew his mum, Ina
Sharples. Yes, very good rugby player. Rugby league though. She was up north, Manchester. Northern woman.
You wouldn't want to get in the way of her, actually, would you?
Well, that hairnet was frightening. It's like a scrum cap, wasn't it? Made of metal, It was knitted metal.
Knitted metal.
I remember Ina Sharples. Wasn't she a pianist or something? The woman who actually played her. Wasn't she a well-known? Didn't she have a number one hit?
I've no idea.
What was her name? I can't remember her name.
I presume she must.
She's been dead for years, Chris.
Yeah.
But Ina, text me back. Ina Sharples.
We can talk about her then. It's all right.
Anyway, it's a long time. Anyway, Moseley got a tatering on Saturday. They played Championship favourites to win the Championship. Bristol. It was Moseley 14, Bristol 59. Bristle.
Well, it's the Pirates again.
That turned up on Radio 5 on Danny Baker's show on Saturday morning. Why do all black countrymen, not black countrymen, I'm Freudian slip there, West countrymen talk like pirates?
He's been listening to our
show. We came up with that one last week, didn't we? Yeah. It was on. I definitely heard it.
Pirates. They sound the same as well.
Irish pirates. Yeah. They all sound like
American pirates.
Johnny Depp. Yeah. He sounds like a native of Gloucester, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does that.
Wow. That's a link. Johnny Depp appeared in a film called The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was a book written in 1723.
That was a scary film, wasn't it?
It was very. Yeah. The Headless Horseman. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. Another scary film. We're talking about scary films now. That was a book written by Washington Irving, who lived in Birmingham in the 1720s. Can you believe?
What a link!
The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Legend of Rip Van Winkle, Ichabod Crane. They were written by Washington Irving, the American author, who lived in Birmingham for a good 20 years, and he may even have written those books while he was living in Birmingham.
Incredible! You'd think we'd scripted this, wouldn't we?
You would. I spent an hour and a half tonight in the Library of Birmingham, which, by the way, is fantastic.
The new library.
New library.
I've not been in there.
You ought to go. It's great. It puts books on a pedestal, mate. Puts books on a pedestal.
Books and stuff in there?
You like books, don't you? Don't you read? Can't you read?
No.
You can read, surely.
Get it all on.
You're a businessman, though, aren't you?
You can get it all in, isn't it?
Your figures, aren't you? Figures, I can see you.
That's it, yeah.
Pound signs are going cogs.
Pound signs.
Pound signs
are going. Don't worry about that. Pound signs are going.
Anyway, yeah. So, Moseley lost to Bristol, got a right tatering, 59-14 at Bilsby Common. And a lesson for Mose from one of the other favourites for the English Championship, as I say, Bristol, who defeated Worcester in the first game of the season. And I think, frankly, Chris, that Worcester and Bristol are going to be at it hammer and tongs. I shouldn't say that, really, should I? No. Worcester and Bristol at it hammer and tongs. No. Bristol.
Yeah, Bristol.
Yeah, sorry. We're getting a bit innuendous here, aren't we? Sorry. Bristol and Worcester are going to be at it hammer and tongs until the end of the season, and I think one of those two will go. And I hope it's Bristol, because, as I say, I don't think Worcester are a proper rugby club, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, back to the Aviva Premiership, which I was going to go through for you. Those perennial underdogs, the London Welsh, the Welsh Dragons, got another slating, 52-0 to Harlequins. The Welsh are already favourites for relegation, and next weekend there's already a relegation 6-pointer in the Aviva Premiership when they play the Newcastle Falcons, who are one place above them. And the Falcons actually won for the first time in a year on Saturday. Sunday.
What?
They beat. Who did they beat? Hang on, let me.
You're going to tell me now?
Oh, this script is terrible. My writing's awful.
I don't know.
Newcastle Falcons beat the. Who did they beat? Exeter Chiefs. I knew I'd get that. Executor, yes, Executor. Aren't they the things you cut your roses with? Do a bit of pruning with? Executors.
That's right, Executor.
Yeah, the Exeter Chiefs. The Falcons beat the Chiefs 29-24. So that was the first game they won in a year. Can you believe that? Birmingham City went a year. Mind you, they did have a year almost to the day when they didn't win at home, didn't they, the Blues? Was that right?
Yes, that's right, and we haven't won that many since either. So.
You're doing okay though. You won beat Millwall in midweek, which is always a tough place to go.
We got a draw as well. But,
we were unbeaten for 2 games, mate. What are you moaning at? Look at the last 3.
I think we're still that's right, yeah. They've slipped down, haven't they now?
10 points at the first 3 games.
Well, second.
They were second after 3 weeks. Now the bloody 10th.
I am sad about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you are, Chris. I'm sure you absolutely. But, well, no love lost between the claret and blue half of the city and the blue half of the city, is there? Yeah, but we agree to differ, don't we, Chris?
Of course we do.
We're radio freaks, and we love our radio, and we love our sports radio, Birmingham. Yeah. And we're trying to, enthuse you and inform you about rugby, because I'm hot foot from here. I'm going to Dixonian's My Club committee meeting tonight. Right. Very important meeting. We're deciding whether we're going to carry on with the club and try and make a fist of it. Can I say that, Chris?
Yeah.
Fist.
Of course,
make a fist.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Make a fist. No, I won't go there. Those films I've been watching.
Yes, I know. Yeah. That's what you've been doing at the library.
Well, it's all online, Chris. There's plenty of Wi-Fi there, mate.
I'll bet.
Plenty of Wi-Fi. Yeah. Well, you can. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. Well, anyway, you've totally thrown me now.
You're going to a
Oh yes, I'm going to a Dixonian's committee meeting, which we're deciding the future of the club. Yeah. We're either going to carry on, or we're going to become a former players' association. We're having a dinner every. So
no team, no running.
Well, we've got 5 currently registered players, but we're hoping to recruit some students. And we're going to take it. We've got a game on the 25th of October at Roeheath Pavilion, which is our home ground, which is a veterans game, and we're trying to build on that and get some youngsters along to that game and turn out for us. We need a leader though, Chris. We need somebody who'll come in, bring some of his pals, and so if there's anybody out there who's looking to play rugby in Birmingham, please contact me by email keithbracey1@gmail.com, or go onto the Dixonian's website, which I think is www.pitcherrow.com/clubs/Dixonians from memory. So if there's anybody interested in playing a game of rugby for the Dixonians, who, as I say, celebrated our centenary last season, and it'd be sad to fold the club in our 101st season, but
maybe if you could put a post on our Facebook.
Well, that would be very kind, Chris.
Put it on our Facebook page. And
I think I've got one, actually.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind,
highlight it.
Very kind. Thank you for that. That's great.
No problem.
I'll try and do that.
You pay me later.
Yes, the check's in the post. So yes, back to the Aviva Premiership. On Sunday as well, the Sale Sharks beat the Wasps. So they're not quite as good as they used to be. The Wasps. They won a European Cup quite a few years ago now. But that was the breaking news at the start of the show? If you missed the start of the show,
yeah. Just say it again.
The Wasps are looking to buy the Ricoh Arena and ground share with Coventry City Football Club. So we have Coventry Wasps Rugby Club and Coventry City Football Club based at the Ricoh Arena.
What a fantastic!
It would be great news for rugby in the area.
Absolutely brilliant.
Coventry and Worcester, possibly Coventry, Leicester as well. Leicester and the East Midlands, Coventry, Northampton. Oh, yeah. They'd be in that East West Midlands rivalry.
Really, yeah.
You could have they'd fill the Ricoh Arena for games against Leicester, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Coventry Wasps, Leicester, Coventry, Northampton. They're 2 of the biggest clubs in the Aviva Premiership. What a great! Rugby clubs are businesses now, Chris. If they're not making money down in High Wycombe.
Has anything happened like that before, where a club has moved that far away?
My club mostly. My senior club, my junior club is Dixonians, who I played for 30 years, but the club I supported since 1970s, Moseley Rugby Club. They, about 15 years ago, they nearly moved to the Kassam Stadium. which is in Oxford.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, yeah.
Firoz Kassam built this stadium for Oxford United when they were a League 3 club or League 2 club, and basically wanted somebody to play on the other weekends when, and at that time Moseley was still a decent-ish side. They were still in with a shout of Premiership rugby and looked as though they were going places. And he made them an offer, and basically the Moseley members had to say no, because most of them wanted the club to stay in Birmingham and they couldn't see any future for the club, and they'd lose all their traditional support if they did move down to Oxford.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, rugby clubs are businesses, they've got to make money. London Welsh, I don't know how it's worked for them, whether it's been a success or what, whether London Welsh moving to Oxford, because they now play at the Kassam Stadium. Right. London Welsh, he got what his wish eventually, he got Premiership rugby at the Kassam Stadium, and so it's an interesting point. But Moseley did have that chance years ago to play in Oxford, but for me as a Brummie, it would not have been a great. I couldn't go down to Oxford to watch it go. Anyway, I just want to mention one more thing before we wrap up.
Okay.
There were two fantastic games at the weekend. On Friday night, Bath beat the Saracens, who were up until then been unbeaten, and they didn't just beat them, they stuffed them 21-11 with Georgie Ford there, our famous fly half, doing well, and Carl Eastman and Jonathan Joseph, the black centre pairing for Bath, absolutely running riot again with Anthony Watson, the fullback. They're fantastic, they're scoring strides from 80 metres out. Bath are really setting the Premiership alight at the start of this season. And one other game I wanted to mention was the Gloucester win against Leicester on Saturday. Leicester have now lost 3 on the bounce, Chris. And as you observed last week, Leicester were that Manchester United of rugby, if you like. They were those people who, win that win percentage must have been up from 70%, something like that. They were the Manchester United of rugby, falling on hard times, lots of injuries. So, if you don't mind, I think we'll call it a day tonight. And thank you for listening to Keith Braces in the Clubhouse, and it's been great speaking to you. We had quite a bit of rugby in tonight's show, but we've also managed to get onto the Peaky Blinders, which I gather you don't like, Chris.
No,
and Jeremy Clarkson, and other things, Points right, West. So good night from downtown Solihull. Big up Birmingham, love the city, brilliant Birmingham.
Good night.
Good night, John boy.